So go ahead and put in the comments what you think is fair. Keep in mind that whites, Jews, and LGBT people from the governing class are the main ones leading the charge. They could stop the rapes anytime they want, with sanctions, what have you, right? You know, if all of Europe worked together, America, Canada, Australia, Israel, what have you, okay, they could shut down rape almost completely in the world. But they don't do that. Because together, when they're playing their globalist war crime game, their neo-colonial game, they believe in embracing a rape spirit. And if I'm wrong, I'll take this video down myself. Make your case if you think I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your counter-argument. I've been talking about rape for a long time, and people have their tail tucked, ignoring me, while people are getting raped by the millions and millions and millions every year. Okay? I'd love to hear a viable counter-argument. Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. In this video about gangstalking, we will connect the governing class's cultures, especially when they're in nice restaurants and ceremonies, their social clubs and corporations, not only to law enforcement and the military, but also to intelligence agencies and rock and roll and rap and basically every culture you can think of, really. Obviously not my personal individual culture, but, so rock and roll, rap, and the Ku Klux Klan. So first of all, I've talked about this a lot in my videos. For those of you who are new, I used to always bring up the fact that there was 4 million or so members of the second Ku Klux Klan under William Joseph Simmons, who was in 24 fraternities, right? Most people would admit that America was extremely racist at that point. It still is, but it's a story for another day. And, there was a golden age of fraternities is what it was called, right? It was like the last part of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s. 1 in 4 Americans were said to be in a fraternity. And obviously there were racist, white, Jewish, and LGBT themed fraternities. When I say LGBT, some of you might say, hey, they're discriminated against. Well, hazing is an LGBT activity, black-facing stuff, etc. It goes back to Greece and Rome, which were very homosexual friendly. One of their major stories was Zeus raping a little boy named Ganymede. Okay. So now, let's think about the fact that Slipknot, one of the more famous and popular rock and roll groups, the Slipknot video I saw, and I've pointed out before, has 523 million views. I'd be lucky to get 52 views, much less 523 views. But it has 523 million views, while America refuses to do anything about gangstalking. They refuse to talk about it seriously and openly and say, hey, this is a problem, and it's a huge problem, and it violates the Constitution, and so on and so forth. Why don't they do anything about it? Other countries as well. People have reported being targeted all over the world. So why is this? Okay. Well, it goes back to the saying, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that they built this city on rock and roll. One of the more famous rock and roll sayings is, quote unquote, we built this city, them, not me, on rock and roll. And I want them to take me out of context. So, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, including the drugs that many targeted individuals have experienced covertly. Okay? Drugs to change the state of mind so people can be taken advantage of, which goes back to technologies to change the state of mind. You have roofies and Mickeys. Why is it called Mickey like Mickey Mouse? Pretty straightforward, right? We see the various masks, which are similar and reminiscent of the Greco-Roman masks and the Egyptian masks that were worn by pagans, and oftentimes people would get raped while these people were wearing that mask because it would be harder for them to identify them, and especially in cult rituals. Okay, and there was no DNA test back then, and so on and so forth. Very sick, right? They can be best described as rape masks, especially because Zeus, who's like first and foremost a deity of rape, was the central god of Greece, and his Roman counterpart was Jupiter. So Zeus and Hera, and Jupiter and Juno was in charge of the Capitoline Mint. Imagine Hera's counterpart in charge of printing money and finances, etc. It's crazy, right? That's cruel and evil. We see in the Hercules series, they describe the Greek gods as being petty and cruel, and anyone who's looked into Greek mythology at all would agree with that. These are not good governing class family lines. Okay, even their goddess of love was nothing more than a whore. Aphrodite. Hermes and Aphrodite, where we get the word hermaphrodite, hermaphroditus. Thus the gender-neutral Baphomet and so on and so forth. This is the core of Western culture that we're talking about when we're talking about gang-stalking culture. That's why they haven't done anything. And they might never do anything. Would the Greeks do anything about their cults? No. Would the Romans? No. Maybe if one cult acted up, which happened at times, that they would shut them down for a while. They know they would, but they wouldn't do anything about it because those are expressions of the governing class lines, right? Some of them look like Apollo, some look like Zeus and Hera and Athena and Aphrodite and Mars and on and on and on and on, right? The Greek and Roman. Mars' counterpart, the Greek counterpart is Ares. That you get Martians and anal probing. Why is it anal probing? Why are they Martians when the Romans were like the Greeks, had a high degree of homosexuality and child molestation, pedophilia, pederasty, what have you? Pretty straightforward, right? There's no other way it could be. This is mainstream history. To deny that these things are true is like denying that America exists, or denying that 1776 is an important date in American history historically. It's a huge part of the reality. It's a huge part of the psychological construct. It's a huge part of the culture and the cultures of the West. So when you see the picture I should have put at the beginning of this video, okay, with the military faces, why are they wearing masks? Why is there a movie with Jim Carrey called The Mask where he has an alter ego, right? He's channeling something, puts on the mask. Halloween, The Mask of Zorro. The mask, M-A-S-K, scrambled, is S-K-M, S-K-A-M, scam. The mask and the scam. Gangstalking's part of the scam and part of the masquerade and the kangaroo court system, the circus, the shit show that we see going on. And people are raped. And they're raped using technology. And gays harass them. And maybe sometimes people are harassed for being gay for good marriage. For good measure. For good measure. Like they say, for good measure. Like the Masons and their compass, their ruler, their trowel, their little hammer, the little hammer in court. You see how these things are connected. What are the commonalities, the Masons would say? The commonalities. What are the commonalities with your cultures that are all playing stupid about gangstalking? Several million Masons in America. Why don't they come forward and speak on gangstalking? All these law enforcement associations, peace officer associations, fraternal orders, why don't they come forward and tell the truth? The one who much is given, much is expected. These corporations, these corporate partnerships, why don't they tell the truth? Why don't the Democrats, Libertarians, or Republicans? This is a huge issue here. People are getting together in large numbers and harassing people and raping them and abusing them and trafficking them. Human trafficking is a part of it. There's various ways to human traffic. One is gangstalking. Another is just kidnapping someone, throw them in the trunk or something, okay, and hook them on drugs and take them to somewhere they don't know anybody and they're hooked on drugs and they just do what you say. Sick as hell. There's pimping and strip clubs and porno. The porn industry is a rape industry. And for whose fucking benefit? Yours? You get a kick out of your friends and family members being abused psychologically? The word porn is a play on words for poor, taking advantage of the poor. I mean, those of you who understand the wordplay, it's also a play on words for enrope, enripe, and rape. You think people should rape the poor? How many of you white people and Jews had poor families in World War II? 4 family members who were raped. Why then would you join the spirit that raped them and then rape them? And then rape people. Or help people get rape people. Why don't you rally to me and let's take them on? Peaceful protest. Do our due diligence. Resist this evil. The worst thing that can happen is infinitely better than the best thing that could happen if you keep following these organized rapists. Where is your heart? Where is your honor? Where's your sense of decency and dignity? You see the commonalities, you see the networks, you see the overlapping membership, you see the indifference, which is one of the main proofs that those of you who don't know much about history one of the main proof that you have, that it's the entire system in every culture that you see. Except for my personal culture, which is universal pinpointed moral precision. And we want to die on the drop of a hat. For God, for honor, for the righteous, for what's right. Those of you who put your family first are selfish. You put the flesh of your families first. Selfish is play on words for see flesh. You put the flesh of your families before their souls, before principle, for humanity at large. And instead of rising, you rot inside.